Hey there. Today I'm going to be painting that Flesh Golem I made in my last video. Now, I'm not the best painter. In fact, I get sort of lazy sometimes. But my main reason to paint it was that I just didn't want another unpainted mini sitting around. And I could throw it in my minis box and use it for some game in the future. So if you're interested, just stick around. So to start off painting, I start with Vallejo's Flat Red, then with a little bit of water. I'm going to try to paint this mini from the inside out, which refers to getting all the hard to reach areas first, and then dealing with the skin last, as it's further outward and easier to reach. And I start with a small brush here, but I eventually just said fuck that and grab one of my abusable brushes. This thing has been beaten to death and back, but it's still going. It's a real champ. I can't, no complaints there. Next, I go in with Ushabti Bone. I wanted kind of a pale tan to kind of look like skin that's a bit old and, no life going through it. So I went with this, using my big brush and swapping to a smaller brush as needed. Next up, Wraithbone for the bones, including all the ribs and skulls and a random assortment of spines and rib cages and all that nonsense. Random thought here, but I do enjoy the fact that this guy's codpiece is just an entire rib cage and skull. It's very, I don't even know how to describe it. It's very excessive. Now, for the intestines, I'm going to blend a brown and a magenta that I just had kind of laying around, and it gets a nice dark purple, perfect for intestines. I start off with the larger intestines, and in here in a bit, I'm going to mix some white in to brighten the color back up and do the smaller intestines with a small brush. And here it is, Liquid Talent, Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to dip it into the pot, and I'm not applying it straight. I'm dipping my brush into the camera off screen to kind of water it down a bit. Now, when it comes to larger areas, a glazed medium would usually be preferred, as it makes so your wash doesn't get all splotchy and whatnot in the wrong areas. But for smaller applications, or if you're like me, you're just going to do something to it later, this works just fine. Now, what I plan on doing here is using some washes over white to kind of tint the skin. So what I want to do is go through and dry brush with white first. I'm kind of hoping that will make the colors pop up a bit more after I apply them. And note to myself, I really fucking hate this brush. I need to throw it away. Now for the washes. We've got purple, a reddish purple, a green, and an old Citadel glaze for a blue. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of stippling them on in random locations, and afterwards I'm cleaning my brush and feathering out the edges so these colors blend into each other a little more cleanly. I didn't think about this too hard, just kind of letting the brush go wherever it wanted. When it comes to these more organic shapes and random mishmash of for lack of a better word, gore, I find it's easier to just not think about it. Don't think about it too hard, at least, and just kind of see where the paint takes you. I've got about 4 different washes here, and I'm trying to use them all semi-equally, but I know I went a little more heavy on the blue and the purple. I'm not really too worried about it looking, for lack of a better word, any particular color, because I'm hoping these will kind of just be underlying tones for this next dry brush of Pallid Witch Flesh. It's kind of a, not quite a white. I'm not too sure how to describe it. I just kind of feel like it's the right color. Yeah, you see me swapping away from that ugly old fucking brush. I chucked that thing. While dry brushing, it's really important to go perpendicular to all the details to make sure you're hitting everything with paint. Otherwise, if you go parallel with it, you're going to get in and you're going to ruin any kind of underlying color you got in there, because your bristles are going to fall into the detail, and that's not what you want at all. And here I'm going back in with a dry brush of that original Wraithbone color on all of the skulls, bones, and spines and whatnot. I didn't want to paint too long on this particular project, but I didn't feel like leaving the skulls as is, so dry brushing with the original color kind of brings it back to the color I had in mind. Overall, I didn't want to spend too long on the mini. This was mainly just kind of an experiment in undertones and whatnot with dry brushing. I will say, it feels like it's missing a little bit of something, and in these last pictures I made, it feels like falls a little bit short, but I threw a very thin wash of a warm brown over it. Reikland Flesh Shade, for those familiar with it. About half and half with water, and it helped tie the colors a little bit back together, so I think I kind of knew this already to an extent, but when dry brushing, you really need a wash to kind of tie it back to the original vision. So I guess the lesson I learned from this was something I already knew. Thanks for watching.